is there's so many rooftop tents out here in the market today that it kind of gets overwhelming looking at everything. So I kind of want to help you guys out a little bit. I've done a lot of research, helped a lot of friends out. I actually still have friends to this day, people in the Facebook group that I'm part of, and just comments in general asking about rooftop tents. So with that in mind, I want to go over hard shell, soft shell, pros and cons with that, and the different styles of each. So let's go ahead and start with soft shell. That's the most common one you guys see on the road today. So with that in mind, I currently rock I'm forgetting the brand of Tough Stuff. It's not the Ranger, but I think it might be the Ranger. Anyways, it's an older style tent. I got a pretty good deal on it when I first started this journey with my roof rack, my bed rack and tent was a kind of a combo. Anyways, long story short, soft shells are kind of the entry level into the overland world, or at least the rooftop tent world, which is to say that. So with that in mind, some of the pros is a lot of them are a little more spacious. Not saying that the hard shell ones aren't, but right out the gate for what you get, they will be a little bit lighter. And there are, I guess, my biggest con with that in mind is the fact that unzipping them, the zippers can get gunked up. They can, when it gets cold out, the material that holds together the tent, when it's covered, can get really stiff. I've noticed myself, and well as with a few others, that in the wintertime or colder seasons, it gets a little stiff. So getting it on and back off and getting the zippers lined up to zip it back up can become a little cumbersome, and sometimes you need a second person to help, kind of one pulls to one side, the other pulls to the other side. Anyways, okay, so with that in mind, you have your typical two and a half. So if you got a little one, that works pretty good. That's a standard size one that fits on most vehicles. They are going to be a little taller than a lot of the other options out there. And you can find them on Amazon and on these big brand name websites, which I kind of want to break into a little bit. So there's so many, it's hard to even talk about it because there's so many out there. Let's just start off with the name brand ones. So you've got multiple generations that have been iterated throughout Tough Stuff and throughout iCamper and just all those name brands. Okay, so the cool thing about soft top tents like that, and the hard shell broke into it a little bit as well. But they have this annex room, which is basically zips on to the portion of the tent that you crawl into where the ladder is at, and it creates a secondary room, kind of like a basement almost, that you can change in, and depending on the size of the tent you have, if you go for more of the 4 or 5 person tent, which isn't bad, but you will probably need a bigger like truck bed, or you're gonna need a Forerunner. But even then, you're now sacrificing the height on an SUV, so it's gonna be a little harder to get into parking garages, your garage. You're also gonna be a little more top heavy, and so on. So, and you have to, if you have the annex, you have to also carry that in its own separate bag. But you are able to, with the soft shells, a lot of the times you're able to keep your bedding inside of the tent. So for me personally, I keep my sheets. I put a new set of clean sheets. What did he say? On before I go, or you keep them on depending on if it's just one night or multiple nights. So one night, and I stay pretty clean. I typically would just keep the sheets on, at least for another trip. You can sometimes keep the comforter in there, depending on how thick of a comforter you have. Something for winter, probably not. And then same with pillows. So it also boils down to what kind of pillows you bring. There's a lot of memory foam or camping style ones. I just take what I have from home and my exterior set and bring them with me. So those are kind of the pros and cons of soft top. And now when it comes to buying them, so with buying them, you can get away honestly with buying the Amazon stuff. There's not much difference, and you'll see this kind of theme throughout the whole video, that there isn't much difference other than, because I want to say quality, but one of the brands, white label, black label, I'm not sure, whatever it's called. Anyways, so essentially a company in China or Australia or Canada, whatever, will mass produce these things, and they'll keep them blank. They won't put a company logo or anything else like that on them unless you just buy it from them direct. But a lot of times they require you to buy in bulk. So a lot of these times you'll see it on Amazon sellers. They're usually like ABCD, XYZ, or it has some weird name and then throw overline at the end of it. Anyway, so those, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times those tents are the same exact tents that you would spend at the name brand company, but they're like anywhere from, I don't know, I've seen them low as 600 to $1,000. Typically you find them on Amazon, and then you go to name brand and they're asking minimum 2,000 plus for them. So I don't discourage buying something like that off Overland, especially if you're getting into this or you're a weekend warrior and you're not like continuously going. Which brings me to my third point. So if you are consistently on the road, or you do the, I guess, more true overland style things where you're out all day, you drive all day, and you're doing your deal, and then you park, you eat, you set up camp as fast as you can, go to bed, wake up the next morning, break down camp as fast as you can, maybe get something to eat, and then you're on the road again. I would probably suggest steering away from that soft top tent. But if you're just a weekend warrior and you want to go, camp somewhere, you want to stay off the ground or off the elements or away from the bears or whatever the case is, then that might be your better option, especially if you don't want to spend a lot of money. You want to get a good night's rest. You want to not have to worry about a lot of things. You can take your time setting up and taking time setting down camp. So typically with soft top tents, it'll be a little longer, probably around 5-ish minutes for tear down / setup, because you have a little more poles for the flaps on the side. I'll kind of put some pictures in here and there, sprinkle them in. So you have all that. Okay, so which I guess now kind of go into the more diverse style stuff. And again, this is all my opinions. You can base it off your rig and how you have it built and stuff like that. So the next thing that you probably see a lot of is the wedge. So I'll place a picture so you understand. But essentially a wedge would be like a wedge, like a triangle, okay? Now there's different styles of wedge tents out there. You have your very basic one that sleeps 1 to 2 people. It sets up with a matter of like a minute, maybe if you're taking your time. It's typically 2 latches. Shove it up, pull the bungee down that keeps all the material inside. Pull it down, get your ladder, extend your ladder, and you're done. And then sometimes they'll have poles, so you might have for your rain fly, so you can extend it to a little bit of an awning, but some don't. So that goes from there. They also, with that same style, they also have it's like a little scissor at where the wedge meets. So right at the base of the wedge, there's like a little scissor. So the little scissor extends it up about 1/2 foot to 1 foot, so you have a little more leg room or headroom, however you sleep inside that tent. And then they have another version. I'll try to put a picture in for this one. And these are relatively new as well. So they're hard shell wedge tents. So try to see if that makes any sense. But essentially what it is it's what it sounds like. It's a hard shell, aluminum shell body. You open it up and you kind of like origami. You pop out the sides that are metal, and then you pull open the door. Everything kind of latches into place. those are relatively new. I have little to any experience on or knowledge. I know very little bit and just kind of see them in the shows like Overland Expo and YouTube and stuff like that. So there are those. Um, those aren't as common as the rest of them are. And then you have a different style wedge. It's this one's I'll just kind of again another picture. So this one essentially you have two options. You can open up like a wedge and sleep in it that way. So if you're just out by yourself and you just kind of up camp real quick, or it's like a Z shape. I think I'm not sure exactly what they're called. I'll if I can find it, I'll put it in the description or in the graphics somewhere. Anyways, so essentially it opens up and then the backside then opens up like a Z. So you now get like a full like rectangle-ish tent. So you get a little more space in there and you're able to keep your footprint still pretty low. Those do weigh a little more. I want to say around the 200, 250 pound weight limit or weight, I guess. So you do have those. Those are actually kind of cool. Those are, I think, in the last year and a half, 2 years, they kind of came out. I know Tough Stuff came out with them and a few others. Again, a lot of these you can find alternatives on Amazon. I haven't found an alternative for this one on Amazon, for this style at least. So that might be actually where the companies talk to use white label or black label. I believe like white label is something that's already made. Black label is something it's made, but you can customize. And anyways, and again, a lot of these companies that started off that way with white labeling are now actually manufacturing them. So there is a reason why you see a difference in price on a lot of these times. So, but again, if you want to start with a basic wedge tent, which I do suggest if you have either an SUV and you don't have a big family, or it's just you and somebody else, or you by yourself. I do suggest it if you have an SUV. It keeps everything kind of lower center of gravity, essentially. So you don't have as big of a footprint. You still have a good size sleeping area, and they do come in standard size, which I think is 6 foot ish, 6 foot, maybe 6'3". I'm 6'3", so but then they have the XLs versions of it. It's a little bit wider, it's like about an inch or two, and then like it is a little bit longer, so someone like myself can get in something like that and be just fine. Now, here's where things get a little fun. So other than the Z-shaped one, you also have, I wish I would have just done a little bit more research, but essentially what there is, I'm gonna see if I can find it real fast. But there's a company out there that makes this, Inspired Overland, that's what it is. It's a very lightweight, I think it's like 80 pounds. And essentially, so they have two different versions of this one. So it's a wedge style soft top. So the material around the whole tent is a very weather resistant canvas that they use. And then you have the aluminum frame on the outside. So everything's held together by the aluminum frame. And then underneath you have these crossbars, kind of like a bed frame. And then a condensation mat, and then your bed. And a lot of times the bed can compose of, I believe on these ones, they compose of a self-inflated air up mattress. Yeah, so it's very, very lightweight. I mean, like maybe 80 pounds tops. And they are pretty cool, but those are more for like the Rocklander guys, the guys that want something very basic, not super expensive, but something that gets them off the ground, but extremely lightweight, so that way they don't lose their center of gravity or have to worry about toppling over and messing with their, ergonomics. So they're around about $1,000 for those. And I've heard they're comfortable. I've never went testing one out. It just, in my head, it's just kind of hard to grasp something that has kind of the metal bed frame style slats underneath the mattress being comfortable, and it is an air mattress, so it probably just fine. You probably would never notice. So that's one style. Then they also have another version that's like that, but it is like it just zips all the way around and then you open it. I don't know. It's instead of latches. So there are companies out there that make the wedge style. So if you want to keep it that wedge style, there's different companies out there. And then the other reason why I would suggest, if you have a truck bed, I do highly suggest getting a high roof rack, something that meets or exceeds the roof line by a little bit. I know I actually do suggest something that goes above the roof line by probably about at least an inch. Depending on what truck you have, sometimes they have the shark fin antenna or something else on top, or if you have a roof rack. That way, you want the tent kind of over the roof a little bit, and especially if you have a roof rack. That way, you're not overhanging off the bed. For one, it just looks goofy. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be the guy who says it. And then you have another style, like it just looks better, and then your center of gravity is better, and you don't have to worry about the overhang hitting something, hitting this, that, and the other. So that's the style I might go to eventually, but I'm not 100% sure. I've got kind of like 3 different ideas of what I want to do. So anyways, so that's kind of the styles. And again, there's multiple styles, and this is all based on personal preference on what you guys want to do. So they're all basically the same. It boils down to personal preference. So I would just kind of go with your gut and what your gut's telling you on that style tent. So going to the next style tent, it's called, I think Overland Vehicle System has it, and I think 1 or 2 other companies have it. And I do believe that there's one Amazon brand that makes it similar, and it was called the Sidewinder. At least that's what Overland Vehicle System calls it. So essentially, it's the same height difference and everything as the wedge style. It looks just like a wedge tent would be closed, but instead of opening up like a wedge, it will then open up kind of like a mouth. So when that opens up, it's almost like a clamshell, but instead of the inner part coming out, you just open it up, and it gives you more room lengthwise. So if you're a tall guy but don't want to buy an XL wedge tent, the Sidewinder might be your best bet. But the cons are you have to go in from one side and only one side. It's kind of like the soft top clam style shell tent where you just pull the thing down and boom, you're in. But it's really good for those kind of guys that like have a 270 awning on one side and don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, or whatever the case is, usage case. So there's not, I don't know, more than that. I'll put a picture in and kind of show you guys, but they're relatively new as well. I want to say about a year and a half old. They're kind of cool. I've always kind of wanted to check it out, but yeah. Anyway, so off to the next style of tent. So you have your soft top that we talked about. You have your wedge, and then you have your Sidewinder, so side opening up tent. Then they've been out, I think, longest or about as long as the soft top tents have. So essentially, it's just as long as your wedge style tent. So these are, I don't know, 6'5" long. So, but it pops up, kind of like one of those old pop-up campers that you tow behind your vehicle. Kind of sit there and crank with them. These are done by hydraulics. So you unclip, I believe it's 4 sides, and then you push up. And once you push up, the camp is set. They're kind of a cool design. I don't like a lot of the outer material that they used for the hard shell, because a lot of these times the hard shell on these ones are an ABS plastic or some kind of like fiberglass. A lot of companies made them. A lot of companies actually started steering away from them. Not all of them, but there are a few out there. And this is, I would say, a good second to the soft shell tent. If you want to have a little more room, I think that they fit like 4 people, like, so, or it's whatever the width of your car is, if you can stack bodies. If you want to stack bodies like side by side. Okay. So that all said and done, against personal preference, they are kind of a cool tent. I would suggest those. So if they're almost in the same budget as the soft top tent. So it wouldn't hurt to go that route if you want a more hard style shell tent. So yeah, so that's kind of my opinion on that. But again, like the plastic-ish style stuff is kind of where I draw the line for me. And you'll start seeing, excuse me. So you'll start seeing that a lot of the Amazon tents, when you say hard shell, make sure to put it in aluminum, because a lot of the soft shell tents that are the hard shell tents I've seen on Amazon. This is where the difference between the name brand and the Amazon brand change. So when you have that, it's a little more of a flimsier plastic. I don't remember the brands there. Again, Amazon is weird with their brands when it comes to this kind of stuff. But you really have to look at the description and look at the pictures and kind of get an idea. And then if you're able to find it on YouTube, definitely check that out. But you just kind of keep that in mind. Like, again, if you're on a budget, you want a hard shell tent, and that meets your needs, then that's perfect. Okay, so that brings us into our next style tent, the clamshell. So clamshell comes in 2 different styles. So you have the flimsy-ish, plasticky cover, and opens up kind of a clam, right? So imagine a clam. So it'll open up like the wedge style. So this is usually, these tents are usually you enter on the side of the vehicle. So it's going to open up like so, and then you're going to have pull the ladder out, and then out comes the second section, which is kind of like the soft shell. So a lot of their design aspects and characteristics come from the soft shell design, but with a hard shell. The hard shell is what lifts up, and that's usually your headboard, typically, depending on how you want to sleep in there. But for me, I typically would put my head towards that. So there are a lot of brands out there when it comes to plastics. So again, if you buy off Amazon, do your research. They're not all bad, but I know the name brands, they go to a hard metal buckle style, where a lot of the Amazon stuff is kind of like a snowboard binding. If you guys ever snowboard, you guys know what I'm talking about. It kind of clicks and you ratchet it down. So ratchet, right? I don't like that too much, just because something off about that to me. I don't want to have to sit there and buckle it down, and the risk of it breaking and all that kind of stuff, because it's all made out of plastic. So take it as you will. And then they have the fiberglass style. So a lot of the name brands and some of the Amazon brands as well have more of a fiberglass shell. It is a little better, but I have noticed, if you park your truck outside like myself, that shell becomes like anything else when it's painted, that's fiberglass. You can kind of see the wear and tear a lot faster. So when you're spending hard money on a tent like that, you'll have paint fade, and I mean, it is fiberglass. If anyone's ever messed with fiberglass before, one good hit, it's cracked. It's gonna be a pain to repair, and good luck finding a replacement, or you're gonna have to be really good with fiberglass, which is not fun to mess with. But they are, on the internals, are good. And the internals of all these Amazon name brand, they're all going to be good. Like the tent themselves is going to be nice. And then you have your hard shell aluminum ones, and a lot of brands are going towards that, including Amazon. So a lot of brands are going towards aluminum because they're understanding that the flimsy plastic doesn't do well in cold weather. Fiberglass doesn't do well in like the blaring sun all the time, and the fading and this, that, and the other, and the beating that we as overlanders, rocklanders, mall crawlers, whatever you want to put, whatever category you want to put yourself in, when you have abuse on your truck, that will correlate to your tent more than likely. I know I've hit a lot of trees and branches and this and that, and it's just nice knowing, at least on my side, the soft tent, that when it hits, it's not a big deal. If I need a new shell on my soft top, I can either buy one or get some duct tape. Not a big deal. I mean, they have these really nice fabric tapes that you can buy. I haven't needed it so far, so this is good. But then you have the aluminum one. It is going to be a little heavier. That is one downside. And there are going to be different heights. So the clamshell, you're just about the same height as you would be with the soft shell tent sometimes. There are ones that are a little slimmer, but you're typically you're going to be in the same category as a soft shell tent. So if you have a truck, I do suggest a mid-height rack. That way you don't have a tall rack and a big tent on top. So now your center of gravity is off and it's just one big sail and you look goofy. Sorry. Like some of us, like I like to kind of mix aesthetics and usability, because for me, I daily drive my truck. So so that kind of all correlates there. And again, you can kind of find a little bit this, that, and the other. I do suggest the hard shell for anything more. It's just the ease of setting up, ease of tearing down, and just that at the end of the day, if you hit something, unless you like have a boulder fall in the thing, like at the end of the day, your stuff's still good, and the resale value is way better than anything else. So if you ever get sick of this, you buy it and you're like, oh, this isn't for me, which I suggest if you do that, go with somebody that has the stuff, check it out, sleep in it for a night, whatever the case is. Do what you can before spending upwards of a couple $1,000s on a setup. And then let's see here. We have all those. They used to make, they don't anymore, at least that I'm aware of. It's called a foot pack. It's a kind of a cool concept. This is kind of going, it's still in the realm of rooftop tents, but it's not at the same time. So a foot pack, if I find a picture of it, I'll send it to you. So it either can go forward, up and over the cab, or back behind and the truck bed. And you essentially have the whole freedom of your truck bed. And then you have your sleeping area that literally flips on top. So whatever the length of your bed is, times that by 2. So you have a whole sleeping platform. You've got a kind of a changing room, this, that, and the other. That kind of brings us into the camper, but not a camper. They call them campers. But essentially, this is what I want to get into. But this kind of brings you back down to different style rooftop tent. They're all kind of, they're on the roof, they're a tent. So I'm going to put them in the category. A little bonus. So you have those. Then you have, and those you can find typically secondhand, and I think only secondhand that I'm aware of, or I'll go to Australia. I believe is the only other place you can find them. But I know I've gone out once or twice with White Dog Overland, and he used to have it on his Tundra, and he loved that thing. He sold that and then sold it, or selling his truck. So he's got some plans I don't know about. We're not great friends, but we're acquaintances. Check out his channel, by the way. Great stuff. And then you have, it looks like it's a camper shell essentially with what would it look like, a a wedge style tent on top, and it goes up and over the roof line, probably about halfway to the truck, depending on what size truck you have. And those are the most common new style ones that you have today. So those styles, that's what I personally want to get into. They're like, it's a camper shell and the same kind of as a foot pack. You push up on what would be the bed itself, and then you got headspace and you can mess around, or there's a little escape hatch that you can do that so you can get on the bed. And They're really cool, but they're really expensive. And a lot these are more custom made. And there's Cab is one of them. There's a lot of brands out there that make these now, and they are Amazon and Alibaba. You can buy them on there too. They're a little cheaper, but they also come over from China, and quality is kind of 50-50. But the ones I've seen the people get, they seem pretty good, but it does take like 3, 6, up to a year to get them. And then you add tariffs and everything, all that junk in between. You're still going to spend about $4,000 or $5,000 roughly. It could be a little less depending on what package you get, but they're really cool. But if you buy it from a company here in the States or from Australia, you're looking at almost the same price as a truck, a used truck, like $20,000, $18,000 to $20,000 typically. And they're usually just a shell. So it's usually a camper shell with the roof cut out that goes into, and it goes into the tent. But there's a lot of pros with that because one, it's always on your truck. You can really pop up. You hit 2 clips, push it up, and you're done. You don't have to pull anything out, do anything crazy. Everything's right there. All you gotta do is stand up in your thing, throw your bedding on, and you're done. So that's another option. That I would say is a little more for the hardcore guy. So if this is your life, you're a solo or even a team, like so you and somebody else, overlanders, campers, that this would be the great option. This is more of an investment. So I do highly suggest that. And I don't know. I think it, again, this boils down to personal preference. And I really hope this helped you kind of differentiate, to know what all there is out there. Again, I probably didn't cover, I probably just hit the tip of the iceberg on this. But I kind of wanted to talk about this because I try to help everybody out that I know personally that ask me about what tent should I get and what this and what that. So if this helps you, please hit that like button. That subscribe button is free. Doesn't cost you nothing. Helps me out a lot. And I would really like to hear from you guys. What tents are you guys rocking, or what tents are you guys looking into? And then maybe I can help you. Well, till next time, guys, good luck.